This tarnished the reputation of America for decades to come, and people should be held accountable. Yes, sir.
Never thought I would see a fall of Saigon in my lifetime, but that's exactly what's going on here. The Taliban are indiscriminately executing people in the street. We've witnessed it on the blimp feeds.
President Biden is set to announce the apparent end to America's longest war. The president planning to withdraw the remaining 2,500 U.S. troops from Afghanistan by September 11th, the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. More than 2,300 U.S. troops killed since this war began, more than 40,000 civilian deaths. The cost, in financial terms, nearly $825 billion.
When I came to office, I inherited a diplomatic agreement duly negotiated between the government of the United States and the Taliban that all U.S. forces would be out of Afghanistan by May 1, 2021, just 3 months after my inauguration. That's what we inherited, that commitment. It's perhaps not what I would have negotiated myself, but it was an agreement made by the United States government, and that means something. So in keeping with that agreement and with our national interest, the United States will begin our final withdrawal, begin it on May 1 of this year. We'll not conduct a hasty rush to the exit. We'll do it responsibly, deliberately, and safely. And we will do it in full coordination with our allies and partners, who now have more forces in Afghanistan than we do. And the Taliban should know that if they attack us as we draw down, we will defend ourselves and our partners with all the tools at our disposal. Our allies and partners have stood beside us, shoulder to shoulder in Afghanistan for almost 20 years. And we're deeply grateful for the contributions they have made to our shared mission and for the sacrifices they've borne. The plan has long been in together, out together. U.S. troops, as well as forces deployed by our NATO allies and operational partners, will be out of Afghanistan before we mark the 20th anniversary of that heinous attack on September 11th. But we'll not take our eye off the terrorist threat. We'll reorganize our counterterrorism capabilities and the substantial assets in the region to prevent reemergence of terrorists or the threat to our homeland from over the horizon. We'll hold the Taliban accountable for its commitment not to allow any terrorist to threaten the United States or its allies from Afghan soil. The Afghan government has made that commitment to us as well, and we'll focus our full attention on the threat we face today. In my direction, my team is refining our national strategy to monitor and disrupt significant terrorist threats, not only in Afghanistan, but anywhere they may arise, and they're in Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and elsewhere. We have to shore up American competitiveness to meet the stiff competition we're facing from an increasingly assertive China.
In a recently overrun army base in northern Afghanistan, Taliban show off captured heavy weapons and ammunition. CNN cannot verify the authenticity of the videos or the date they were filmed, and Afghan security officials could not confirm or deny Taliban claims in these videos to CNN. But they do admit to losing dozens of towns in the past fortnight. The Taliban claim 90 such victories in the past month. The UN says it's less, 50 of 370 gone, but still very concerning.
Most districts that have been taken surround provincial capitals, suggesting that the Taliban are positioning themselves to try and take these capitals once foreign forces are fully withdrawn.
At times, the Taliban claiming wins without firing a shot. In Tahrir province, a whole column of up-armoured American-made Afghan army Humvees are surrendered by government soldiers to the Taliban. The soldiers dump their guns in a pile, a valuable boost for the Taliban, who are fighting hundreds of miles from their heartland in the south and east. Afghan government officials say they're sending reinforcements to take back control and claim without proof to have killed hundreds of Taliban. The Taliban offensive appears to take advantage of the US and NATO drawdown, limiting air support for Afghan troops on the ground, and raises questions about their intent at peace talks in Doha with the Afghan government. It's also significant that they're attacking the north. I covered the Afghan conflict in the 90s when the Taliban were fighting their way up the country. It took them years to get up to the north. This will send a very chilling message to Afghans. The Taliban surge, also a concern for US forces, who agreed their own ceasefire with the Taliban as they exit their longest war, but hoped they might leave the country at peace.
Every day, the situation in Afghanistan changes as the Taliban continue to conduct these attacks and to raid district centers, as well as the violence, which is still too high.
On Friday, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani meets President Biden. With final US forces more than half gone, hard to see an easy reverse to the Taliban's gains. Nick Robertson, CNN, London.
As a real Afghan, we would never do that because they are the people who are killing and kidnapping, who are thieves and who are corrupt. So we'll never work with them.
We're the first foreign journalists to see the latest army base the Taliban have captured in the province. And they want to show us the treasure trove of military riches they've seized with it. Many of these boxes supplied by the Americans hadn't even been opened before the Taliban got hold of them.
Whoa.
Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. Because you have the Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
The Pentagon tonight has now revealed it is sending 3,000 American troops back into Kabul to help remove a significant number of U.S. Embassy personnel as the Taliban now sweeps across the country, taking control of at least 12 cities. The AP reporting late today they have now taken Kandahar, too. The Pentagon today saying the U.S. will send those thousands of troops back in over the next 24 to 48 hours to help remove a significant number of American personnel. Of course, all of this less than 3 weeks before the U.S. completes its scheduled withdrawal from the country. President Biden today would not take questions on the worsening situation on the ground there, but we are learning about a meeting at the White House just today. Taliban fighters now seizing those 12 major cities, Kandahar, the second largest city in the country. The Afghan military releasing video claiming to show airstrikes on Taliban targets. And the map tonight, you can see the dark red right there. Those are provinces held by the Taliban in April, just 4 months ago, when President Biden first announced the U.S. troop withdrawal. And look at the dark red tonight. This is what the Taliban controls now, roughly 2/3 of the country.
That NBC News and our CNBC team has confirmed that the President Ghani of Afghanistan, has left the country. He is headed elsewhere. So we have been saying this. Listen, we knew, and we said this at the top of this broadcast here, that there had been reports of that NBC had not confirmed it. We now have.
So I got a good vantage of the airport right now. The Taliban control the passenger side of the terminal. And then we're over here on this end. Got the little birds over there. Got Apaches flying everywhere. We can't put up our PDIDs or the blimps that we use to put a camera on things at the airport, so I think just a lot of the helicopters are just scanning the perimeter. This is fucking hell, man. It's the end of the world over here. I'll probably stream again when I start destroying my gear. I got to be pretty careful because I have to go pretty high up on a roof, and I'm worried about sniper fire right now. Yeah, that's a weird thing to be worried about. So my last video didn't save. It wasn't long enough. I'll try to make this one longer, I guess. We're in the final bunch of flights, headed up to HKIA. We're abandoning the embassy completely. I'm about to get the order to destroy my satellite terminal. I'm gonna take a sledgehammer to it, I guess. Flip it off the roof. Once that's done, I'm heading straight to the flight line. I have a chalk number for a flight on a Chinook. And that's going to get me the fuck out of Dodge. I'm not sure HKIA is any safer right now. But that's all right. It's definitely been an interesting day. Never thought I would see a fall of Saigon in my lifetime, but that's exactly what's going on here. The Taliban are indiscriminately executing people in the street. We've witnessed it on the blimp feeds. Most people are out of here right now. I'm still waiting around for the final word. I'm going to destroy my equipment. So trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to do that in the quickest way possible, probably with a sledgehammer. Should be an interesting stream. Right now I'm in my room. What's left of it, this old German bomb-proof container. So I feel pretty safe in here. They did just put out the word that we are going to full PPE, so meaning our plate carriers and helmets. We're hearing gunshots now outside the wire, and reports that HKIA is under attack, which is where we're going. So that's pretty fucking wild. Yeah, this is probably the last night I'm gonna have here at the embassy. By this time tomorrow, it's probably gonna be in Taliban country. They are right now, according to Afghanistan Live map, which I highly suggest, they are all over. They were supposedly holding at the gates until a proper transition could be handled, but we're hearing gunshots. This is where we're located right here, and where we'll be headed to the airport. Look at all the destroyed gear. So this area is known as Circuit City. It's where a lot of the networking, nipper, sipper, dirty net stuff happened. It's right outside the main headquarters for the ISAF mission, or RS mission at this point. Which way do I go to get out of here? This is the main spot here. It's where all the battle planning was being done for the mission here. Over there we had a Thai restaurant, barbers, and gift shops and stuff. It looks like that fire right there was the radar for the CRAM. And it looks like they have set that on fire. People destroying hard drives down there at the end. The American flag here is the last one. Every flagpole here used to have a different flag of a different nation, part of the NATO group that was here supporting the efforts in Afghanistan. You can see the American flag is the only one left. And that's only going to be there for a few more hours. try this again for the third time. I'm not going to do it live this time. I'm just going to start recording. These are all just abandoned weapons. PPE. And there's no guards at all. We're just in a fucking parking lot. I could just grab an AK if I wanted one. All the M4s. Ammo. Flight carriers. Radios. Over there on the other side of the tarmac, you can see all the Afghans lined up. Place is turning into Mad Max quick. Over there on the outskirts of Kabul, I mean, we're well within striking distance. The Taliban has started to get angry at us more than they are. This is where all the Gurkhas were set up last night waiting for their flights out. There's abandoned luggage everywhere. Abandoned Toyotas. Anybody want a free bulletproof Toyota? They're here. Buses the Afghans are rolling in on.
And the situation at the Kabul airport as of now remains tense. Gunshots were fired into the air near crowds of people outside the airport on Wednesday. Videos of the incident showed crowds running away from the armed Taliban member firing his gun in the air. The US is looking to get thousands of its citizens out of the country before the August 31st deadline. President Biden has said that troops will remain in Afghanistan till all evacuations are complete. Thousands of US soldiers are at the Kabul airport, and the Pentagon now plans to ramp up flights of its huge C-17 transport jets to as many as 24 a day.
Americans should understand that troops might have to be there beyond August 31st.
No, Americans should understand that we're going to try to get it done before August 31st.
But if we don't, the troops will stay.
If we don't, we'll determine at the time who's left.
And
if there are American forces, if there's American citizens left, we're going to stay till we get them all out.
President Biden announced this agreement that until 31st of August they would withdraw all their military forces. So if they extend it, that means they are extending the occupation. While there is no need for that, I think it will deteriorate the relation, will create mistrust between us. If they are intent on continuing the occupation, so it will provoke a reaction.
Let's talk about the situation at the airport. The Taliban has said that if the US decides to leave beyond the 31st of August, there will be consequences. What kind of consequences are you talking about?
If they extend behind 31st August, that is a clear violation, one thing. Secondly, about consequences, it is up to our leadership how to proceed and what kind of decision they take. That decision will be implemented.
Do you think it's likely to turn into some kind of battle or a fight with the Americans?
This is on the basis of our leaders and seniors' decisions.
And as the Taliban defeated the military, province after province, it took everything that was left behind. And the militants are making the most of the US investment. A war booty worth hundreds of millions of dollars has been collected, which has left the Americans trying to calculate what's been lost.
I don't have an exact inventory of what equipment that the Afghans had at their disposal.
No exact inventory, but Mr. Kirby had this hope.
We don't want to see any weapons or systems that to fall into hands of people that would use them in such a way to harm our interests.
The Americans may not want that, but what they want and what's happening in Afghanistan at the moment are two different things, and the risks were known. In July, the US completed its withdrawal from Bagram Air Base. Across Afghanistan, it took home many of its planes and weapons that it had delivered, but it couldn't take everything. A report by the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction found that the Afghan military had more than 150 aircraft, including 23 A-29 ground attack aircraft, 45 Black Hawk helicopters, and 50 MD-530 helicopters. It's not clear what's happened to all of them, but here's the Taliban with an A-29. This was posted on Twitter. Also posted on Twitter was this video of Taliban fighters next to a Black Hawk, to which the Biden administration said this.
Those Black Hawks were not given to the Taliban. They were given to the Afghan National Security Forces to be able to defend themselves at the specific request of President Ghani, who came to the Oval Office and asked for additional air capability, among other things.
They weren't for the Taliban, but if the Afghan military was defeated, that outcome was always possible. Now, whether the Taliban can actually fly them is another matter. This is a former Black Hawk pilot speaking to NPR.
It's not something you do overnight. It's not something that you can do in a week or a month. It takes a long time. I mean, someone could get in there, maybe find some operating manuals and figure out how to get the engine started and the rotors turning and get it up in the air, but they'd probably be more of a danger to themselves than to anyone else at that point.
But even if they can't fly them, that's only part of the picture. Fred Bezan of Radio Liberty reports the Taliban has an estimated $212 million worth of US military aircraft, vehicles, ammunition and spare parts. He says it makes the Taliban arguably the best armed militant group in modern history. And we can be sure the Taliban knows how to use some of this equipment that it's inherited. Pictures like these have emerged of Taliban fighters looking quite different. Listen to the BBC's Lise Doucette's description of seeing men like this.
Many of them wearing American-issued uniforms, carrying American-made M4 rifles, carrying those exactly the way Americans would teach you. And so that is really jarring.
And potentially all those people did die in vain if we don't have senior leaders that own up and raise their hand and say, we did not do this well in the end. Without that, we just keep repeating the same mistakes. This amalgamation of the economic / corporate / political / higher military ranks are not holding up their end of the bargain.
When Osama bin Laden became an issue for the Americans, he was in Afghanistan. Although there was no proof he was involved, now we have given promises that Afghan soil won't be used against anyone.
You still don't think that Osama bin Laden carried out 9/11? How are you feeling right now, after 20 years, and the Americans are leaving?
The withdrawal is almost finished. These are our happiest moments.
After the interview, we made our way to the airport. Inside the airport, the evacuations are moving along, but the mood is somber. These are Afghans who don't take the Taliban at their word, escaping while they still can.
Mm-hmm. 国际社会应鼓励和推动阿富汗局势朝积极方向发展，支持阿富汗和平重建，改善民生福祉，提高自主发展能力。动辄制裁施压的做法，解决不了问题，只会适得其反。
That includes reaching out to the Taliban, who are actually providing the outer security cordon around the airfield, to make sure they know what we expect them to do to protect us. As you know, 2 suicide bombers, assessed to have been ISIS fighters, detonated in the vicinity of the Abbey Gate at Hamad Karzai International Airport and in the vicinity of the Baron Hotel, which is immediately adjacent. The attack on the Abbey Gate was followed by a number of ISIS gunmen who opened fire on civilians and military forces. At this time, we know that 12 U.S. service members have been killed in the attack, and 15 more service members have been injured. A number of Afghan civilians were also killed and injured in the attack. We are treating some of them aboard H-Kaya.
Don't have a lot of additional detail to offer you about the attack yesterday at the Abbey Gate, but I can confirm for you that we do not believe that there was a second explosion at or near the Barron Hotel, that it was one suicide bomber. We're not sure how that report was provided incorrectly, but we do know it's not any surprise that in the confusion of very dynamic events like this can cause information sometimes to be misreported or garbled.
I'll read to you what is so painful for me and so many other Afghan veterans who served in that capacity and others who served as a part of the train, advise, and assist, equip effort in helping the Afghans. We now know that due to the negligence of this administration, the Taliban now has access to over $85 billion worth of American military equipment. That includes 75,000 vehicles, over 200 airplanes and helicopters, over 600,000 small arms and light weapons. The Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the countries in the world. But they don't just have weapons. They also have night vision goggles, body armor, medical supplies, and unbelievably, unfathomable to me and so many others, is that the Taliban now has biometric devices, which have the fingerprints, eye scans, and the biographical information of the Afghans who helped us over the last 20 years. And here's what we just learned again in the briefing that we just walked out of, is this administration still has no plan to get this military equipment or these supplies back.
Congressmen want an investigation of Ashraf Ghani, the president who just fled. Apparently, he took $169 million with him. He's now got asylum in the United Arab Emirates, a country known for its, shall we say, hospitality.
Firing in the confusion afterwards, they believe by foreign soldiers.
Somehow I saw the American soldier and beside this there was Turkish soldiers, so the fire come from the bridges, like the towers.
From the soldiers?
Yeah, from the soldiers.
America's Department of Defense didn't reply to our request for comment.
This is the situation outside the airport.
Their mission turning deadly last Thursday when 13 U.S. servicemen and women were killed in a suicide bombing, along with dozens of Afghans. In retaliation, the U.S. carried out a drone strike against an ISIS-K planner and facilitator, and an unmanned U.S. drone targeted a vehicle less than 5 miles from the airport. The vehicle, believed to be carrying a substantial amount of explosive material, which caused powerful subsequent explosions.
President Joe Biden went to Delaware to do what's called a dignified transfer of those 13 service members who died in that bomb blast in Afghanistan. It was there on the tarmac that he saluted those service members along with a high-profile lineup, including the Secretary of State and the Defense Secretary. But this came as there were reports of that car blast in Kabul. So the military reporting that they'd used a drone to strike a car that they believe was full of explosives. They say that the evidence that that was the case was a small series of explosions after that car was hit. Now, the original reports were that there were no civilian casualties in that, but now local reporters on the ground are saying that they've spoken to family members who say a family was killed in that strike.
I'm resigning my commission as a United States Marine, effective now. I'm sure there's some more admin on how I'm supposed to do that, and I'll work through that.
The Taliban claim of controlling 5 out of the 6 entrances of Kabul airport's military side, with Abbey Gate being an exemption and that being under the control of the US forces. They say that they are entirely in control out of the outer perimeter of these gates, and with 31st August just around the corner, they vow to seize control of the inner security parameters of the Kabul airport's military side.
There are some days left of the Americans. Once they leave, then we'll have control over these gates as well. Nobody is allowed to go inside. We will wait for guidance from our leadership and would do as they say when they ask us to enter.
I'm standing at the Barron side of the Kabul International Airport. This is the military side. These checkposts are those which had US soldiers stationed, and you would see them. Now, just one of these checkposts or watchtowers is where I am witnessing, or I can see it. Perhaps if the camera person can show you as well. There are U.S. soldiers who are stationed. The day of the blast, when I came over here, beyond this point, this place towards my left, where you see the Taliban now, this was in control of the British Army, and here there were people who were waiting. Now, with the Britishers having left, this entire entrance to the hotel, to the Barren Gate, is now under control of the Mujahideen or the Taliban.
Scott, the gates are closed to the airport yesterday. What's the reality on the ground first for those in buses waiting to get in?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Brian. Look, the first thing I'll say is the Pineapple volunteers, these are all special ops volunteers and civilian supporters. We're doing this remote. We're doing this from the U.S., but we're building on our relationship and trust that we've had with our Afghan partners for 20 years. So we've got the ground truth on the outside of the gate, and here's the deal. There are hundreds of American citizens right now who are not able to get in. Yesterday, there was a bus of up to 50 American citizens with many small children within sight of the gate. The Taliban were not only not letting them in, they were firing over their heads, firing around the bus with these little kids on there. Imagine sitting on that bus with your kids, enduring that for hours at a time. Never got in. This is happening all over the city. We're going to have American citizens and Afghan allies behind enemy lines within a few hours.
We got to get those people out of Afghanistan, those people who helped us and who we promised we would protect. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to, and I know it's a pain in the neck, and everyone says it's easy, but it's nerve-wracking. We are going to call our senators and representatives, and we're going to tell them we want these people safe. We want these people out of Afghanistan. This is neither a controversial nor is it a partisan issue. I just saw a CBS poll that said 81% of Americans say we should help Afghan translators enter the U.S. And I'm going to show you exactly how you do it, and then I'm going to leave a link in the description so you can click and just follow the directions. And probably takes, you know what, I'll time it. I'll see how long it takes, and I'm slow. You're going to go to this website that I found on Google. There's a link to this site in the description of this video. Unclick local, county, and state. We don't care about them. Put in your home address. Click search, and here they are. I'll admit that I didn't know who my representative and one of my senators were before I did this.
And if you do happen to get a human, I didn't, but you might, just tell them you have a prepared statement you'd like to read, then read it to them.
I'm here to announce the completion of our withdrawal from Afghanistan and the end of the military mission to evacuate American citizens, third country nationals, and vulnerable Afghans. The last C-17 lifted off from Hamid Karzai International Airport on August 30th this afternoon at 3:29 p.m. East Coast time, and the last manned aircraft is now clearing the airspace above Afghanistan.